ahead and get started. We have multiple chambers watching and online, so we try to get going right at noon and finish right at 1. So if you see the camera in the back, they will be allowed to ask questions online too. So when we go to the Q&A session, we might have some read from the back. But first of all, I want to turn it over to Jackie with DMAG. She is working with the 10,000 Small Business Program, and they have sponsored our lunch today. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her say a few words about the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me. As Christina said, my name is Jackie Bolt, and I am with Moynihan Community College. Our department is DMAC Business Resources. And just to give you a little overview, if you're not familiar, our department is tailored to work specifically with businesses on a number of programs and kind of workforce leadership initiatives, training and development for your employees. We also have a number of just kind of different events as far as the Small Business Awards, but today I'm really here to talk to you about the 10,000 Small Business Program. If you are not familiar, this is a new program to Iowa. It came last year. And I would say it has been a huge success. So the program is a national program that is funded by the Goldman Sachs Foundation. And this is the first, so they have a number of sites all over the United States, and this is the first time that they have done a statewide program. Iowa was the first. So it is a statewide training program for small business owners. It's a little bit different in that it's truly not designed for startups and entrepreneurs, but for businesses that are already established. We've had 73 businesses go through the program and graduate over the last year, and they would describe it as a practical MBA. They would also describe it as very intense, and it is a commitment, but they would also say that it is life-changing, business-changing, and a great opportunity. So just to give you a little bit of info, it is completely free, which is one of the best parts of it for those, especially those that are from the other parts of the state. When we say free, it is truly all covered. So when you come to DMAC for the training, the hotels, the food, everything. So we take about 40 individuals. They come to DMAC 3 times for multiple days. And then in between those sessions, there is some online training. So it's about 11 weeks. And when you are finished, you have a growth plan and kind of how you envision your business growing in the future, whether through revenue or employees, but the focus is on developing and figuring out the best strategy for your growth. The applications, we're currently recruiting for the next cohort, which will begin in the end of January. The application to apply is October 17th. There are some handouts on the table. Again, I have some cards that are in the back as well. So if you have any questions or are interested, I would be happy to give you some more information. Feel free to reach out. And we hope to see some of you in the next cohort.
All right, as Jackie mentioned, being our sponsor today, her information is on the table. We have additional information in the back, and a lot of the information can be found online as well today. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the program today. We're so excited to have Sally Smith here. She has been so generous with her time and does a lot of training for our small businesses, and she is a marketing guru. So when I talked to her, we had some feedback that, you know what, we have a lot of solopreneurs who are a little scared to promote themselves. And what's the gray line between yourself and your business? And so Sally was very generous when we kind of talked about this to pitch this session. I said, absolutely, sounds like a great one. So we'll hand it over to Sally and get going.
I think I'm live? Great. Terrific. Thank you all for coming today. I'm so excited to talk with you. As Christy has said, I own a marketing and design firm and have for 26 years now. It is a very small business, and it is scaled to work specifically with small businesses, particularly family-owned businesses. So you all are near and dear to my heart. Your problems are the ones that I love helping to solve the most, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about how easy it can be to do self-promotion as a small business or solopreneur. Now let me rephrase that. It's not easy, and you all know that or you wouldn't be here. But it is simple. Let's take a look. Oh, there we go. The first, know your brand. And your brand is something we'll get into a little bit more. But I'll tell you right now, it's not the name of your company or your logo. The second step is to know your customer. Your best customer. Your sweet spot customer. Step 3, talk to them. This is the step that hangs everybody up because they want to know how. Should it be a website? Should I be doing social media? Should I be running ads? Honestly, that's not the first question you should answer. It's the third. Step 4, let those people talk back to you and listen to them. And step 5, repeat. Let's dig in a little. Effective self-promotion essentially starts with brand management. Knowing your brand involves managing it. Managing that business experience at every step of the way. So when I say to know your brand, I mean know how you do business, know your culture and your style. Why? Well, it really involves what a brand is. This is the technical definition, but it boils down to the fact that your brand is in your customer's mind. Your brand is essentially your reputation. It's part of the reason why we have to manage it so carefully. Because if we don't control how other people perceive us and what kind of emotions they have around that experience, we lose control of our brand. We start to become something in their minds that isn't what we ever intended to be. That's because brand is the combination of emotion and experience. It helps to take a minute to figure out or look at how memory is formed. If your brand sits in someone's mind, it's part of their reputation, memory becomes a huge aspect of that. And science has taught us lately, there's a lot of research on this, that the glue that holds something in our minds is emotion. It's one of the reasons telling stories helps in your marketing messaging so much, because you can add extra detail, extra emotion into the telling in order to help it stick. But it's important for your brand because the emotion that somebody has as they do business with you is what will help them remember you and tell other people about you. Your brand is not your name, or a tagline, or a logo, or your website, or a style. Your brand is the experience that somebody has in working with you. Everything from how they encounter you the very first time, whether that be at your store, or your website, or they bump into an ad, or they hear about you from someone else. The impression that they get from that and what they take away is what becomes your brand. So what do you do with that? How do you manage that?
You have to consistently deliver value, reinforced with an emotional connection. So it's what you do, and more importantly, how you do it. Defining that, understanding that, it's what this first step is all about. So if you sell carpet squares, it's not enough to know that you sell carpet squares and that you're looking for clients who want to buy carpet squares. How do you sell those carpet squares? What's different about buying carpet squares from you than anybody else? What's the experience going to be like as they do business with you? Are you warm and fuzzy? Are you friendly? Are you helpful? Are you a designer? Are you a contractor? Are you an installer? What value do you bring to the experience beyond the thing you do? Make a little sense? There are two ways we define brand in the technical marketing realm, and I'm going to teach them to you today. The first one is an exercise you kind of just do on your own. It's not necessarily public facing. The second one becomes the basis for your marketing message. It too may not be public facing exactly as it is. These are exercises you will use to help define your brand as you move into the second step. First one is your core branding message. It's a statement of your competencies and your standards and your style or culture in one sentence. And the devil is in the detail on this one. This comes down to that it's simple, but it's not easy. Your competencies are, of course, what you do, the carpet square. Your standards are how you are distinct. So perhaps it's carpet squares from Italy, or carpet squares that can't be found someplace else. It's your piece of distinction. How you deliver it becomes your style. So in this case, carpet squares from Italy, delivered to you with a designer's eye so that we can help you choose the styles that work best for you. Or perhaps our style is a busy mom and we know what kind of wear that carpet's going to get. I can help advise you. So you put all of that together into one sentence. We sell carpet squares distinguished by our unique standard point of view, delivered with a style. One sentence. That's your core brand message. Now we're going to take that and springboard to the next level. Your brand message comes to life through a positioning statement that becomes the basis of your marketing message. This piece is built for your target audience specifically. And you may have slightly different positioning statements for every target audience and or aspect of your business. So for instance, in our carpet squares scenario, we didn't really care who we were talking to. We were just making a statement of what it was we did and how we did it. But that may change whether we're talking to a residential customer or a commercial customer. It may change if we're talking to interior designers or homeowners. It may change if we're talking to subcontractors we're hoping to partner with, or lines that we're hoping to be able to carry. So this is the formula for a positioning statement. Your target audience, for your target audience, you, offer a point of relevance. This is essentially your competency, but it's the competency tweaked for their perspective. So in this case, if it's residential, we offer carpet squares for home use. With the differentiation, this starts to become your point of style. They can be benefits, they can be value points. And then we wrap this up with a critical little piece, a reason to believe. At this point, you can start to talk about guarantees, experience. You can bring in testimonial aspects. You can talk about promises that you're making, whether that be a refund type guarantee or simply, and you can believe in this because as Carpet Square salespeople, it's our promise to make sure that all carpet in the world are squares. That's ridiculous. But you start to get a sense of what kinds of things can be your reason to believe. It's this extra little piece that puts it over the edge. As you're building that positioning statement, remember, it's tweaked for the listener. It's tweaked for the one you're telling your story to. It means it's more than sales. You're not putting together a positioning statement to say, we offer the cheapest carpet squares. Your next step in your sales cycle from a positioning statement is not a buy. At this point, you're building a relationship. It's about discovering what those customer touch points are, and perhaps even what the employee communications may need to be, or the community relations pieces may need to be, that this positioning statement may need to be built around. In other words, you may need positioning statements from multiple audiences beyond customers. Your story has to get told across the board because your brand lives in the mind of everyone, whether they're an employee, whether they're a member of the community, or they're a customer. So knowing your brand, now we need to start to think about what we need to do to put this step to work. You've defined your core brand message, and you've got positioning statements for those target audiences. What do you do with this? You need to start to think about how deeply you need to market. How can you better enhance that experience in order to strengthen your brand? In other words, the work that you've done with this investigation into your positioning statement, are there ways you can infuse more connection? Can you get more emotion into this story? Again, at this point, we're just defining your brand. We're trying to figure out, what do we say? What are we saying, and who do we think we're saying it to? And how can we build as much connection into that as possible? In our ridiculous carpet square scenario, can we give samples? Is it about the touch? Is it the smell? Can we scratch and sniff our postcards? Can we do little time-lapse videos of what it looks like to install? Do before and afters give you that warm and fuzzy feeling? Do we need to bring people into a showroom to have them experience? Do we show them quality differences that they can touch and feel between our product and a competitor? Work on smell, sight, sound, feeling, as many of the senses as you can engage, the better and deeper that connection will be. Identify all of those pieces as part of your brand and think about how those interactions may be different for all of those different audiences who hold a memory of your brand in their mind. Now that we've got that, we can move to step 2. We're still not ready to run an ad. Step 2, you've identified your target audience as part of the exercise of learning your brand. And I haven't even gotten into the fact of questioning whether that should be your target audience. That's another conversation. But I will say this much. Any of you solopreneurs know that you can make money working for the right kind of customer, and you can lose money working for the wrong kind of customer. It's important to identify the difference and make sure that you're building your company and tweaking your brand to attract the right kind of customer. Everyone, unless you sell toilet paper, is not your customer. The first time a prospect says to me, well, I need to run some ads, and I ask, who's your customer? And they say, well, you know, everyone. No, it's not. We need to start some customer management. Who's your best customer? And it's not always money. We talked about losing money on bad customers. But sometimes good customers don't make you money, but they're an incredible influencer. Sometimes your best customer gets you in front of the right people. It's essentially fame. Sometimes the right customer you do because it's just plain fun. It gives you an opportunity to stretch, to grow, to build a portfolio, to do something you couldn't do for other folks, and perhaps have a potential for more fame in using it. And sometimes the best customer truly is for fortune. But you do get to choose. Understand who those good customers are, why they're good customers for you in any of those areas, and identify the markers. If you saw them walking through the O'Hare Airport, how would you know they're a customer? Try to get that drilled down. Where do they spend their money? Where do they spend their free time? Who else do they do business with? Learn everything you can about them. Make detailed profiles of them. Create little boards that have pictures of what you think your customers look like. Know them as intimately as you can. What's their slang? How do they talk? What music do they listen to? Make a list and check it twice. By this, I mean now you're at a point of identifying individuals. If you have an existing customer base, put them into the categories. Who are these folks? I want you to have such detailed customer database that you know how they like their coffee in the morning. I literally keep track in my customer base as who's a right-hander and a left-hander. I don't know why, but I just think it's a fun fact and I like to know. The next step is to start to think, for those customers that you have, and you've identified how you're important to them, why they're a target audience. Now I want you to start to think about, how are you really a part of their life? How can you become more a part of their life? How valuable can you become to this group? Why? Because the more a part of their life you are, the better chance that they'll talk about you. It's a great way to start to build referrals and encourage them to spread word about you to their friends and family. Becoming more valuable helps increase demand. Demand helps you add features and services that they may want. And it may help you increase prices. It's a talk for another day, not a plug to Christina, but it is a talk for another day. There are only 4 ways to grow your business organically as a small solopreneur. You either get more good clients, you get the clients you have to buy more often, or you increase your prices, or you cut your costs. So by becoming more valuable, you not only help attract more good clients, but you help the clients you have come back more often. And it may even give you the opportunity to charge a little bit more down the road. We're finally to step 3 and we get to start to run some ads. Hot dog. Why did we need to wait till now? Because we didn't know what we were saying. We didn't know what kind of experience we wanted to put into somebody's mind. And we didn't know who we were talking to. But because you know that now, it almost answers the question of what should I do? Because if you've really identified those target audiences, you know what they're listening to and where they are and what they read and who their friends are and who else they're doing business with, you go follow those. That's where you need to be too. So the first step in talking to your customers is to decide what your goals are. Start from your core brand message and your positioning statement and be consistent. Remember, our whole thing about memory and brand is that they remember with their hearts. So if we get really crazy and we've got lots of different messages and styles and things that we're throwing out there, we're going to create a very convoluted brand impression in the customer's mind. So if you're about high-quality Italian carpet squares and you're all about design, be about design 110% of the time in everything you do. Be heard. Talk out loud. You get points for style. So that means get creative. We hear with our eyes first. Be beautiful. Be engaging visually. It's okay to have fun. That's part of the emotion of laughter. And just to follow back up with step 2, be audience specific. But you also talk to your audience indirectly. So your brand identity at this point, now it is about your logo, becomes a factor. How your office space looks, how your vehicles look, how your advertising comes across. You can talk directly to your customers through email and telephone and face-to-face and direct mail, but you're also going to talk to them indirectly, where you're just throwing a message out there and hoping it attracts the right kind of person. That's when these things matter all the more. And making sure that you are consistent in that brand impression that you're putting out there. It's almost like you're putting out a radio signal and you're encouraging your targeted audience to dial you in. When you speak directly through those targeted communications, such as email, direct mail, anything where you can put an address, a name, a mobile number on it, that's your direct communication. Know that there are touch points all throughout the customer life. Your sales don't stop at the first time a customer says yes. Make what's called a journey map of where they begin with you and how they move all the way through that process. From the very first time they bump into you to the very last invoice they ever receive. What is that to work with you? What are all those opportunities you have to put your brand in front of them, your message in front of them, to promote yourself? So now that you have this, I want you to start to develop an objectives-driven plan. You know what you're saying, and you know who you're talking to. Now you need to start to think about, at those touch points, what do you need someone to do? At the very beginning, you put out an ad. The thing you need them to do is probably not buy your carpet square. They're not going to. Probably from the ad, they're going to check out your website. Or they're going to do some more research. Or they're going to come into the showroom. Or they're going to give you a call. But stay on the step you're on for your sales cycle. And build your objectives based on that. So if what you really need to do is sell the carpet squares, remember, you've got to build every point along the way. And think about how you're going to connect with that targeted audience at each of those points, based on where they already are, what they're already doing, what their impressions of you may be, and what you need to plug into that to be valuable in their lives. Be sincere, be relevant, but be unique. And be consistent. We're now to step 4. You've put some promotional materials out there. You're starting to generate a little energy. There's some conversation happening between you and your customers or your prospects. Step 4 is about listening to them. When somebody comes to you and says, so, what's new? there should be something new. Be interesting. If you want somebody to talk about you, and word of mouth is one of the best ways small businesses grow, you need to have something worth talking about. So we need them to talk about us and back to us. How can they do that? And how will you be listening? Can they email you? Is there chat function on your website? Do they have access to your mobile number? Can you put a survey on your Facebook page? Can you run a quiz as an organic piece of social? How much can you put out there to help them talk back to you? And why do you want to do that? It's not about the sale. It's because at this point, they're telling you what they want you to do. I've always said when you go into business, and especially as a small business or a solopreneur, you have no idea what business you're truly in until the customer tells you. You may think that you're selling carpet tiles, and after a year or two in business, what you find out what they really want is someone to advise them on how to get more drama out of space. Or they really love your design sense. Or perhaps what they really want is the flexibility the carpet tiles give them to change this up in a couple of years. You're not going to know how to tweak your marketing message or how to become more valuable to those customers if you're not letting them talk to you and listening to it. So, can you do things like referral programs? Can you hold events to bring them in? Realize that sometimes they're going to talk about you in ways that are not pleasant. The rise of Yelp, Google, Facebook reviews, they're out there, and they're important. They are a factor in your SEO ranking. You need to pay attention to them. Be prepared to respond, even when the feedback isn't pleasant. Phew, we've made it through. You've worked on your brand, you know your audience, you're running some promotions, and you're listening to be able to know what you're running is effective. Step 5, easy, repeat. And I don't mean hammer on step 3. Repeat doesn't mean go back and run another ad. Okay, now go back and run some email. Okay, now maybe we try some SMS. You're gonna kill yourself and you're gonna spend a lot of money unless you repeat from the beginning. Now, you don't have to redefine your brand every month, but you are gonna want to look at that positioning statement pretty regularly. Are you still saying the right things? Are you leading with the relevance and the distinction that seems to be resonating with the listener? Is the style that you've established in your core branding message really your style? Are there things you could be doing to reinforce that more? And are there more targeted audiences or stakeholders for your message that you need to be talking to? You're always going to be looking at your customers. Constantly be updating that database and gaining more information about them and the prospects that you're trying to reach as well. then you're going to be running more promotions, and you're going to be listening to how well they do and what kind of feedback you get. That's the repeat. It has to be all of it, or it really doesn't work. It takes consistent, constant effort and a plan that you commit to following. Self-promotion requires some scheduling, paperwork, and a commitment to building the relationship most of all. Because again, self-promotion is an oxymoron. It's not about you. It's about them. So those are the 5 steps. If you follow those, you'll enjoy the results. What questions do you have for me today?
I'm gonna so our viewerships online can hear too.
You seem overwhelmed.
Are they in a daze from the pizza?
Right, right. What questions do you have about the media that you're thinking about running or you've wanted to run? Or maybe we can run through a couple of scenarios real quickly.
I'll ask the basic one. What are you seeing, and it's going to vary from client to client, I know, as the best bang for the buck in terms of advertising and promotion right now?
Let me see if I can clarify. You're asking, what am I seeing as the best way to promote right now? It's going to depend on the audience and the message. It's going to depend on step 1 and step 2. Let me give you a couple of examples. If your targeted audience positioning statement is built around existing customers, and you've identified your goal opportunity is to get more business out of those existing customers, and you've worked through step 2 enough that you know who those folks are, you've got a database, and you've discovered you actually have most of their email addresses, the most effective way to talk to those folks is probably going to be email. That's where working through step 1 and step 2 gives you an immediate answer to step 3. Now, if we tweak that, and step 1 was, we've identified our best customers, we know who they are, but you have a product that doesn't really encourage repeat. There's no point in trying to get them to necessarily come back. Our goal is to get more folks just like them. Now we've got a different problem. So now we need to go through step 2 very closely. What are the markers of those folks so we can find folks that look just like them? If you have those email addresses, Facebook actually has a program they call Lookalike Audience. You can load those in and start to create ads directed toward people that look a lot like those folks. You can also dig into more research. How did you find those original people? Where are they? Are they within a neighborhood? Are they within a demographic? Do they all go to the symphony? Do they all play hockey? Are they all in the same school district? Well, those things all make light bulbs go off. Oh, maybe we're advertising in the Iowa Wild program. Or maybe we're sponsoring the school district Fall Fest. Or you start to get an idea. It's not what's hot or what's best or what's pulling. It's what works for what you're trying to do and who you're trying to talk to. And that's especially important as a small business and a solopreneur because you probably can't afford what's hot right now. There's some groovy hot stuff out there, but it comes at a price point that only my larger clients can afford.
Okay, we do have a question online. It's coming from Pella because they're watching in. How do you learn more about your customer? Do you have any tips on that?
Ooh, great question. Learning about your customer involves looking deeply at who they are now. I'm assuming when they say, how do you learn about your customer, what they're also asking is, how do you learn about your prospect? Because that's typically what that also means. One of the ways is you invite them in. Actually do focus groups and roundtables. Get face-to-face, build connections and relationships. Try to be as much a part of their life as you can. Befriend them when you can. It's always important to track who your best customers are. So if you have a business that has small, multiple points of sale, maybe you own an ice cream shop. Well, it's hard to know who all of your customers are, but you are going to start to get a feel for who your repeat customers are and your best customers are. And it's those folks you ask to come in and say, I'd like to get to know you more. I'll take you to lunch. Or we'd love to give you a tour. Maybe they'd like some insider information. If they're really a repeat customer, they're probably kind of a fan. Treat them as such.
Other questions?
So once you develop your brand, how do you get every single person in your organization to get on the bandwagon with you and really you're not there, how do you get them to be your message?
It's a challenge. And the larger the organization, the bigger the challenge is. And that's the reason large organizations have marketing departments that insist that everything go through them before it goes out. There's a lot of employee communication that needs to happen. It's one of those targeted audiences you build positioning statements for. You have to figure out how can you teach them what your brand is and get them excited about waving that banner for you. Empower them as much as you can, give them the tools so that when they do something, they're at least using the right stuff. They know what the fonts are, what the colors are, what your formats and your messages and things are. But I would say it's those three things. Try to create a process of approval for the important stuff. Try to educate them in why it's important and what your messages are, and then empower them with as many tools as you can.
Other questions? We get another one online. Okay, this one's coming from somebody watching in. What do you suggest if the target audience crosses different industries and you are focusing on a service instead of a product? What do you suggest for getting to know customers?
Can we repeat it? At the beginning again, we've got a target audience across different...
What do you suggest if your target audience crosses different industries and you are focusing on service instead of product?
Okay. It's absolutely no different, but if they are crossing different industries, you may need different targeted audiences for each industry. I suspect there's enough distinction between those different groups that you may need to talk to them differently. If your service is graphic design, and I will switch to first person because we do have designers. I work with small business, I work with larger corporations, particularly within building and construction. I work with very large corporations in a natural space, natural food, healthy lifestyle, et cetera space. I have to talk to each of those groups completely differently. They have very different needs. They want something differently from me. And I have a feeling that would be the case for you as well. It's not a one-size-fits-all message.
It's a question that I get when people are talking about marketing. They want to know personal page versus professional page.
Sure. Yeah,
and the
let's get down
voices
to
that they're
some
using.
specifics.
Is there a gray area? Should you stick to one or the other?
Yes, yes. It comes down to your voice. So again, it kind of starts at the beginning of knowing your brand and knowing what that impression is. If you want the impression to be about you as an individual, and you're building your relationship one-on-one, then a personal page can work. But realize that you're using it as your business platform. So, photos of your karaoke mishap may not be appropriate. But if you're building a relationship as a business to the customer, then a business page may be the better situation. Again, it kind of comes down to that, know what it is you're trying to build.
Can I ask another question?
Please.
So Sally does a lot of unique marketing pieces just for her company. Can you give an example of a unique piece that you specifically have done?
Oh gosh, we do so many, yes, because we believe in, of course, getting to stand out. We will often do a customer appreciation client gift at odd holidays. We may throw something out at Christmas, but we love Halloween and we love Valentine's Day. So we'll do little gifts in a box and we'll send 300 of them out. Or we'll build, last Halloween, we actually created a coloring book with, had pictures of everyone in the office, and it was all sort of Day of the Dead-ish. We turned every employee into their own little sugar skull in this coloring book. And then we have a black cat in our office that lives with us all the time. His name is Pixel. And of course, Pixel does tend to drive a lot of our love for Halloween. You can't have a black cat and not love to do things around Halloween. So those are some of the promotional things we do. Now again, they always tie back to our brand because we're about design and branding. There's a story, there's look, there's some fun there. We're also about helping people DIY. So there's usually something interactive, like it was coloring. It'll be we did build a snowman one Christmas, and we actually had the little coconut covered snowball things and dowels, and we delivered it in this tin, and just silly and fun. But it's a matter of kind of identifying what are those brand messages you want to reinforce and getting them out there. Let's see, we've sent sparklers for the 4th of July. That was a challenge because we learned that we couldn't actually mail firearm type things. Yeah, always do your research first. That was not the most brilliant thing we'd ever did. There was a lot of delivery in that one. We've sent out, we've sent out funny little glasses with the nose, and we photographed all of the staff wearing them. That was a Halloween thing one year. Just trying to stand out, trying to be a little distinctive, trying not to get lost in holidays that everybody uses.
We have time for one more question. Any burning? Well, Sally, out for a little bit, and I actually
received the coloring book, and as a mom, it went right in my purse, and it worked well at a restaurant, so I'm just going to throw that out there. But it does stand out, and like she mentioned, like, just because she tells you this, she lives and breathes it too, of being remarkable, that kind of, standing out, remarkable, memorable, all those things that she mentioned. So let's give Sally a round of applause for being here today. There is all kinds of paper, which I normally don't believe in, on your tabletop today. But again, the 10,000 Small Business, thanks for them for sponsoring. Flyers are on the table. Small Business Success Summit is coming up on November 8th. Sally will actually be one of our speakers at that, was selected to speak at that. And then we've only got 2 more top 5s to round out the year, so your surveys are important to us of other classes you'd like to see. We will be going out to RFP for those speakers for next year in November. So thanks for being here today. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.